That is one well-behaved cat. A quiet place? More like a quiet purr. Hey everybody, welcome to Mainely Movies. Today I'm going to be talking about the 2024 horror thriller prequel, A Quiet Place Day 1. If you're new here, please consider subscribing for a variety of movie-related content, like reviews, rank lists, and trailer reactions. All my reviews include a breakdown of the pros and cons, my rating, and some tailored film recommendations, so be sure to watch through to the end of this video for all of that extra content. A Quiet Place Day 1 stars Lupita Nyong'o, Joseph Quinn, and Alex Wolff, and was directed by Michael Sarnoski. Set at the beginning of the A Quiet Place apocalypse, it tells the survival story of a woman and her service cat as sound-sensitive aliens invade New York City. Every time a new A Quiet Place movie comes out, I'm a little concerned. And every time, it ends up being far better than I could have even hoped. This franchise is driven by a very simple and timeless horror movie premise. Stay quiet or you die. It's so simple, in fact, that it seems like something that could get repetitive or boring pretty quickly. But the first two movies managed to avoid that pitfall by telling extremely tense, character-driven stories. You grew to care about the central family, so it was easy to stay invested even through the silence and motionless scenes. A Quiet Place Part 2 left us anxiously awaiting Part 3, which is still on the way, but A Quiet Place Day 1 was announced as coming first. A spin-off prequel? A new time period, new place, new characters, new director? With only the premise remaining, it's understandable why many, including myself, were a bit apprehensive. But it just goes to show just how strong of a premise this really is. It's a very different movie from its predecessors, but it somehow still fits right in with the rest of the franchise. One of the most enticing things about the first A Quiet Place movie was how it just dropped us into its post-apocalyptic world. We never actually saw what had happened, and had to glean this information from newspapers and basement notes along the way. There was a bit of a mystery to the situation, and that element of unknown made it extra tense. A Quiet Place Part 2 satiated some of our curiosity by briefly showing us the noisy chaos of the first hour or so of the apocalypse for the Abbott family in their small town. It was an exciting sequence, so it was only natural for us to be curious about the events of Day 1 elsewhere. And where better than the noisy and bustling New York City? This was obviously a big change in terms of the setting and the sheer number of people around, at least initially, but there's something so interesting about seeing the city here. The eerie, quiet, and abandoned quality after such a short period of time. The vacant, dusty, blood-soaked streets. The city that never sleeps becomes an empty post-apocalyptic wasteland in a matter of hours. This change in location isn't the only difference here with Day 1. As a prequel set 90 miles away from the Abbott family farm, the family we've been invested in for 2 movies now is obviously nowhere to be found. We do briefly see a familiar face in an almost MCU crossover-like cameo that directly ties this movie to A Quiet Place Part 2, but this movie focuses on Lupita Nyong'o's Sam, a terminal cancer patient who travels to the city on a hospice excursion to see a show. Accompanied by her exceptionally well-behaved service cat, Frodo, we get a glimpse at the first few days of the apocalypse in the city. Most of the characters in this film are fairly transient, as one would expect in a movie with deadly alien creatures, but Sam does find companionship with another character, and this is where the movie really shines. That human element that made A Quiet Place 1 and 2 so unexpectedly moving and gripping pops up here too. I'm not going to spoil anything about Sam's personal quest in the film, but the more we learn about her, the more tender and heartfelt the movie becomes. Lupita Nyong'o brings so much emotion to the role and story. And of course, her feline co-star, Frodo, is an impressive standout as well. This is an A Quiet Place movie, so we've obviously got to talk about the sound design some. I probably sound like a broken record in these reviews, but this sound design is so impressive and so integral to telling the story. That's probably obvious given the sound-based premise, but it's effectively used beyond just the horror aspects. Of the three movies in this franchise, this is probably the noisiest, which I guess makes sense given the New York City setting. The sound doesn't seem to be quite as high of a priority here when compared to the previous two films, and there's generous use of score throughout, but there are still plenty of the expected silent, tense sequences. We don't get the creative hearing aid effect in the sound design this time around, but still, even the smallest footsteps, crunches of glass, and raindrops are deafening at times. And those creature stampedes? The jarring transition from absolute silence to building shaking roar back to silence is something you don't get used to, no matter how many times it happens. A Quiet Place Day One is a tense movie, but in a different way than the previous two films. There's still plenty of those hold your breath, sit on the edge of your seat moments as the creatures menacingly listen for a hiding character, but this is a more active film than its predecessors, more akin to the Day One segment of A Quiet Place Part 2 than anything else. There's more movement here, more action set pieces, more scenarios that are tense and dangerous for reasons beyond just the creatures. And the characters themselves also change the tension dynamic here. Sam is already dying before the creatures even arrive, so her mindset, goals, and approach to the apocalyptic situation change the tone of the tension quite a bit. And the presence of Frodo the cat adds a whole nother level to this tension too, especially if you're anything like me and are sometimes more concerned about the pets than the human characters in movies. This isn't as unbearably tense as the other films in the franchise, but you're still gonna find yourself holding your breath for much of the movie. Perhaps the least changed thing about this prequel is the prevalence of frustratingly dumb character decisions. Now, obviously, this is something that's mildly plagued all of the A Quiet Place movies, but it's as frustrating as ever, making you want to yell at the screen, but you don't, because you know you have to stay quiet, unlike the characters in the movie. Our main characters here make some questionably noisy decisions, but the behavior of random New Yorkers is probably the worst part here, as one would expect. I get that it's only day one, but it makes you understand why there are so few people left by the time we get to the other movies. Even with those minor irritants, A Quiet Place Day One was a very pleasant surprise. I was genuinely looking forward to this movie, since I loved the other films, but I didn't really know what to expect with all the changes, both on and off camera. Turns out, I should have just expected a really satisfying thriller and another great entry in the franchise, plus a fantastic feline performance. Seriously, if only we could all be so lucky as to have a cat like Frodo. Alright, let's talk about the pros and cons. Pro number one is the emotion. This wasn't exactly what I thought would be one of the prevailing positives of what's essentially an alien invasion movie, but wow. All of the A Quiet Place movies have had strong emotional through lines, largely relating to family and grief, but A Quiet Place 1 and 2 had the benefit of sticking with the Abbott family. This spin-off prequel introduces new characters who are all strangers to one another, but the apocalypse offers up a unique bonding experience for people. The choice to make the main character a terminal cancer patient might initially seem like a strange one, but it adds compelling and emotional thematic layers to the story, making it far sweeter, more heartfelt, and more life-affirming than your typical post-apocalyptic horror. The second pro is the sound design. We are talking about an A Quiet Place movie here, so this probably doesn't come as much of a surprise. As with the rest of the franchise, sound and silence plays a critical role in the story. It's baked into the premise, obviously, but it's also a huge part of building and breaking the tension as well. From a technical standpoint, I'd say the sound design here isn't quite as impressive as in the previous two franchise entries, with the film featuring a lot of score this time around, but it's still noticeably strong compared to most other films outside of the franchise. Pro number three has gotta be Frodo the cat. The idea of having a cat in the A Quiet Place world sounds kind of ridiculous at first, but he's easily one of my favorite elements of this movie, and honestly, one of my favorite characters in this franchise. If you've seen the trailers, you might think that Frodo only plays a small role in the story, but he's actually one of the main characters here, and is in the vast majority of scenes. That alone is an impressive feat, because as anyone who's ever owned a cat can tell you, they're not exactly known for following directions. But the two feline actors who play Frodo, Nico and Schnitzel, do a great job and give among the best cat performances I've ever seen. On the con side, the biggest issue has got to be the frustrating and often downright dumb character decisions. This is something that's been an issue in all of the A Quiet Place films, but that doesn't make it any less irritating here. The main characters make some questionable decisions at times, and although some absolutely make sense given the life situations they find themselves in, others are just dumb. I mean, even under the cover of rain, why would you risk talking above a whisper? And don't even get me started on their choices involving a revolving door. Perhaps the most frustrating, though, are the decisions made by countless minor characters and random New Yorkers. Now, I get that this is day 1, and 2, and 3, but after the first few hours, anybody who's still alive has got to know the basic rules of this world. Chief among them, stay silent. So the scenes here featuring post-apocalyptic crowds are just infuriating. A rolling suitcase? Really? Before I give you my rating and recommendations, I want to remind you that if you're interested in buying A Quiet Place Day 1 or any of the other films I mentioned today, I do have affiliate links for all of them in the description below. I get a small commission from anything you buy using one of my links, so I'd really appreciate it if you use them if you're in the market for any of these movies. I'm gonna give A Quiet Place Day 1 4 out of 5 paws. It's definitely a different approach to the A Quiet Place premise than we're used to, but it works well. Excellent sound design and tension, exciting action, and compelling characters make for a movie that's somehow both bleak and life-affirming at the same time. I would recommend A Quiet Place Day 1 to anybody looking for a strong post-apocalyptic thriller. Existing fans of A Quiet Place will likely enjoy this, even with its change in characters and location, but you don't really need to have seen those movies to understand or enjoy this one. So franchise newcomers will likely also have a pretty good time with it. If you liked A Quiet Place Day 1, I would recommend I Am Legend. This is another New York City set post-apocalyptic story featuring deadly creatures. Rather than aliens, the city is plagued by vampire-like infected, as a man and his dog try to survive and find a cure in the otherwise deserted city. If you liked Lupita Nyong'o's performance and want another strong horror thriller role from her, you should check out Us. In Jordan Peele's sophomore film, she plays a dual role as Adelaide and the chilling Tethered Red in a story where the world is facing a different kind of apocalypse. And if you enjoyed this premise and want some more of A Quiet Place, you'll want to watch A Quiet Place Part 2. This film provides a look at day 1 of the apocalypse in a small town, and even features an overlapping character. But more importantly, it's another more active, traveling adventure story in this deadly A Quiet Place world. Alright, a couple questions for you guys. Number 1, have you seen A Quiet Place Day 1? If so, what'd you think of it? And number 2, what's your favorite movie that prominently features a cat? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments below so we can get a discussion going. Alright, so if you got some enjoyment, insight, or information on this review, I'd appreciate it if you'd hit that like button. And if you haven't done so already, please hit subscribe while you're at it to see more videos like this. Till next time, this has been Alyssa with Mainly Movies, the way life should be.